What is up, Yankee fans? I'm Ryan from Fireside Yankees, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking about Clayton Beeter and Will Warren, who could become really nice bullpen weapons for the Yankees in 2025. Now, the Yankee bullpen is already very good, but it could just get that much better if these two young right-handers are able to take steps forward in 2025 and really establish themselves as reliable big league arms. We're going to get it started talking about Clayton Beeter, and then we'll transition to Will Warren. But before we get into everything, make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, and turn the notification bell. Check out Fireside Yankees on your favorite social media pages, whether that's Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, or, of course, this YouTube page. It's all under the handle at Fireside Yankees, except for Instagram, where it's fireside.yankees. And you can check us out on Apple or Spotify podcast. If you're listening to it there, drop a 5-star review. And without further ado, let's get into today's video. And let's get things started talking about Clayton Beeter. Now, Clayton Beeter last season dealt with a shoulder issue that limited him to just 39 2/3 innings pitched at the minor league level and 3 2/3 pitched at the major league level. Clayton Beeter has a really fun arsenal headlined by a four-seam fastball that sits in that 95 to 96 mile per hour range when he's coming out of the bullpen, but is closer to 92, 94 when he's as a starter. Now, the Yankees transitioned him into a bullpen role when he returned from his shoulder issue at some point in the late summer. I believe it was around early September when he started throwing at the minor league level again. He started out in Double-A, he transitioned into Triple-A, and then the Yankees called him up for a few appearances. And one of the things that really stood out to me about Clayton Beeter's delivery and the changes he made as a reliever is that he went from pitching out of the windup to pitching out of the stretch exclusively. Now, pitchers, of course, pitch out of the stretch with runners on, but not out of the stretch with no one on typically. But Beeter decided to say, scratch that. I'm not using my windup. I'm just sticking to my delivery. He was throwing harder. His fastball command got significantly better. His fastball movement profile got a little bit better, adding a little more vertical life to the pitch. And overall, I just thought Clayton Beeter looked a lot more poised and a lot more controlled on the mound. You didn't see those wild fastballs that sprayed all over the strike zone. It was a controlled and concise delivery that allowed him to simply deliver the ball into the strike zone with his fastball and set up that nasty slider. It's important for Clayton Beeter to throw fastballs in the zone because it's going to allow hitters to either A, fall behind the count, or B, end up popping a pitch up and, putting Beeter in a situation where he can get quick outs. If Beeter can get ahead in the count, it's going to allow him to set up what is one of the best breaking balls in the Yankee minor league organization. And quite honestly, getting ahead in the count, having count leverage, those things are extremely, and I mean extremely important to having any success at the professional level. If you're not getting count leverage, if you're not getting ahead in the count, batters are going to get an advantage against you, and it's going to be easier for them to win the battle or win the at-bat or work the walk or whatever it may be than if you're able to get ahead. 0-1 and 1-0 are two completely different stories. They change the outcome of how an at-bat is going to go. It's really important, very important, and that first pitch really sets the tone for an entire at-bat. So Clayton Beeter, when he was a starter and working out of, the windup with his fastball and not really knowing where the ball was going, he walked 15.7% of batters faced as a starter in AAA, with his fastball only being in the strike zone 45.3% of the time. That is not going to cut it, especially for a fastball that was sitting at around 93 miles an hour without plus extension or an outlier release point. Clayton Beeter releases from a higher release point, and for four-seam fastballs that rely on vertical movement and a lot of riding action, that makes it a rather predictable movement profile. Furthermore, not having a ton of extension on his fastball, having only 5.8 feet of extension means that the perceived velocity was actually a little bit lower than his actual velocity, meaning that 93 mile per hour four-seamer, or 92.8 if we wanted to be specific, was more like 92, maybe, 92.3. Like, it seems like a small difference, but it does matter, and that fraction of a second extra for a hitter to determine whether to swing or not, whether they can pull this ball or not, whether to shoot it the other way, what to do with that pitch, it does make a difference. And while he still was effective, he had a 2.53 ERA, again, a 15.7% walk rate, that's not going to translate at the next level. What Beeter did do well was generate whiffs. As a starter this year, he had a 37.6% whiff rate in AAA, and he also prevented damage contact pretty well. He didn't allow a lot of home runs, and batters had a 279 expected weighted on base average on contact, which is a very fancy way of saying their damage rate. What was their expected damage rate when they put bat on ball? It excludes strikeouts, it excludes walks. We're talking purely batted ball data, and Beeter was able to limit opposing hitters to really some just harmless contact in the air, pop-ups, weak fly balls, or whiffs. But what really bedeviled him again was the lack of command, and he doesn't have overpowering stuff where he can make up for it with just blazing, again, a 92 to 93 mile per hour fastball by somebody. So how is he going to adjust? How is Clayton Beeter going to display that he could be an above average pitcher at the major league level? Well, again, he came out of the bullpen, down the stretch, he changed to throwing out of the stretch, and he didn't use his windup. Fastball velocity at 95.6 miles per hour. Again, even with that lackluster extension, we're still talking about what is a 95 mile per hour fastball with good vertical movement. Nothing changed in the release points, nothing changed in his extension, but what did change was his ability to throw strikes. That around 45% in zone rate with his fastball uptick to 57.1, and that is a game changer, folks. When your ability to throw strikes goes from firmly below average to firmly above average, suddenly batters can't just sit back and be patient in the count and hope that you're going to walk them. Clayton Beeter didn't walk a single batter as a reliever at the minor league level, and batters were whiffing just as much and still not making any contact or quality contact when they did put bat on ball. It also further played up his slider because now that he could establish the fastball in the zone, that slider that has a ton of dropping action, doesn't really move much laterally. It's kind of like a hard curveball. It ended up being really, really devastating, and it also added some velocity, sitting around 86 to 87 miles per hour. And that slider is a unique pitch. It's what we call a death ball. A death ball is a slider that sits near the zero line in terms of vertical and horizontal movement. It doesn't actually have to just be a slider. It can also be a curveball, but this death ball pitch is usually a firm breaking ball. Again, that's going to sit near the zero line in terms of induced vertical break and horizontal break. Clayton Beeter's slider has around -2 inches of induced vertical break and -1 inches of horizontal break. -1 inches meaning that it's moving towards the glove side. So the difference in horizontal movement between his fastball and slider was -1.0 for his slider. So again, 1.1 inch of movement to the glove side. That's moving away from righties and into lefties. And his four-seamer had 3.5 inches of horizontal break to the arm side, moving into righties and away from lefties. But 3.5 inches of horizontal movement is just going to look like a straight line to the plate. It's very hard for hitters to pick up 3.5 inches of horizontal movement, so it looks like a straight shot to the plate, and that can be a good thing when paired with a slider that also doesn't have a lot of lateral movement. When you pair these pitches together, you get a scenario where Clayton Beeter's throwing a four-seamer and a slider that generates so much vertical separation, and they look the same coming out of the hand. It's absolutely gross, and the Yankees should be extremely excited about how that could play in a bullpen role. Now, when you look at what Clayton Beeter did at the major league level, 3 appearances, 4.91 ERA, 33.3% strikeout rate, good underlying metrics, not great ERA. Again, 3 appearances, 3 2/3 innings. You're not really going to take anything out of this, but those stuff plus scores are certainly enticing at a 117 stuff plus, and even his minor league stuff plus scores saw a serious uptick when he moved to the bullpen. If the Yankees can keep him in that bullpen role and can continue to develop his ability to throw strikes and miss bats with that fastball slider combination, I think we're looking at one of the better relievers in this Yankee bullpen. Matt Blake talked him up on Hot Stove, and when Matt Blake mentions a guy, you definitely listen. And you definitely listen when he's talking about Clayton Beeter as a potential swing and miss arm for this bullpen. Steamer projects him for 63 innings pitched. 2 of his appearances as a starter, 56 total appearances, a 3.79 ERA, a 3.97 FIP, and a 26.6% strikeout rate. I would take that in a heartbeat. A 3.79 ERA, a 26.6% strikeout rate. I would take that in a heartbeat, and I think he can do way more. I think we could be looking at a guy who maybe has their ERA start with a 2 this year just because of how devastating and how unique his breaking ball is and just how good his four-seam fastball is at 95 compared to 92, 93. Again, that 95, 96, we're talking about a completely different pitch. We're talking about much better pitch grades and much better with outcomes. So better command, better stuff. That's just going to lead to me being really high on your outlook as a reliever, and Clayton Beeter checks all of the boxes for reliever. He has a fastball, he has a secondary pitch, he has good command, and he has great swing and miss stuff that also is going to result in a lot of soft contact because of just the way he throws the baseball. But moving on to Will Warren Warren's a little bit of a tougher sell for some because he was so disappointing in his first taste of major league action. The right-hander had a 10.32 ERA in 6 appearances. One of them came out of the bullpen, 5 of them were starts, and while he had good underlying metrics with a 26.4% strikeout rate, a 9.1% walk rate, his 1.99 home runs per 9 was just not going to cut it. He allows way too much damage contact, he got hit way too hard when he made mistakes, and the Yankees are going to need to figure out ways to improve Will Warren's command to allow him to have better success in these kinds of major league situations. The first thing I think the Yankees are going to have to help Will Warren do is improve where he throws his sinker. He's relying on his sinker in the wrong parts of the zone, down and into righties and down and away to lefties. I think he should be going down and away to righties and down and into lefties because those pitches steal strikes. And again, what we talked about with count leverage, getting ahead in the count, being up 0-1, maybe being up 0-2, or getting to 1-2. If Will Warren is able to get ahead in the count consistently and steal strikes with his sinker, it's something that's going to allow him to be a very successful major leaguer because he's always going to get count leverage. Michael King uses his weird release points to his advantage, and Will Warren has very similar weird release points to Michael King, and both of them have really wide and low release points. That allows sinkers on the outside part of the plate to righties and the inside part of the plate to lefties. So that first base side of the home plate, those pitches are going to steal a lot of strikes. Those pitches are going to get called strikes. Batters rarely swing at them. They're often frozen by those pitches. It's why they look so pretty when a pitcher executes them. And with San Diego, Michael King was able to utilize that to a very, very successful degree. He was excellent with the Padres. He became a frontline starting pitcher. And even more importantly, when it comes to Michael King and Will Warren, their depth of arsenal plays a huge role in their ability to be successful. Will Warren has a sweeper. He has a changeup. He has a four-seamer. He has a cutter. And I think he can utilize all 5 of his pitches in addition to that sinker. And when you look at that four-seam fastball, it's not going to impress you in terms of vertical movement. It's definitely less impressive than Michael King's in terms of vertical movement, but it still is released from a low slot, and it had a lot of success at the major league level. I do wonder if that's a pitch he'll utilize a little more in the big leagues in 2025. Furthermore, his sweeper, it's just nasty. It's got tons of movement, but it hasn't really had a lot of success over the past year. AAA hitters had a decent amount of success against it. Major league hitters had a decent amount of success against it as well. I wonder if that's a command thing. Maybe he's just hanging it a little too much. Maybe it's backing up on him a little bit. Perhaps the Yankees can shift where he stands on the rubber to try and induce or coax a little more of command to the outside part of the plate with that sweeper. Again, you're cueing your sweeper kind of in the same place you're cueing your sinker. And maybe, again, just attacking that part of the zone is what's going to be important for Will Warren. Attacking outside to righties, attacking inside to lefties, using his unique and weird release points to his advantage. Warren, in my opinion, still has the ability to become a starter at some point, but I do think, at least in the near future, developing in the major league bullpen and getting work there and building up your confidence and figuring out what works and what doesn't work there is going to be extremely successful for his major league career. People will cite the fact that he's entering his age 26 season, that he's going to be 26 in a few months, but Michael King wasn't a major league starter consistently until he was 28. He didn't break out until he was 27 as a reliever. Clark Schmidt didn't get his first major league win until he was 27 years old. He was not very good in his age 27 season either. He was much better in his age 28 season. So guys take time to develop. The Yankees have a unique situation too where they have a surplus of pitching talent and they don't rely on their minor league guys to come up and just win jobs out of spring training unless injuries arise. They're always going to be on the prowl looking for starting pitching options on the free free agent or trade market to bolster their pitching staff. And I just ultimately believe that Will Warren in a reliever role, given a little more cushion, a little more time to kind of develop and figure out his repertoire a little more, and give Matt Blake a little more time to work with him, I think it's going to result in a successful major league pitcher. There's a reason why he was a top 100 prospect. There's a reason why the Yankees like him so much. And there's a reason why, ultimately the Yankees were willing to call him up last year and start his service clock a little bit earlier. I think the Yankees really like Will Warren. I think Will Warren can have a ton of success at the major league level. And I think that if you make some of those tweaks to his command, if you have him kind of not exaggerate, but really just lean on his release points and what makes them unique and how they can deceive hitters, then his stuff is going to play up that much more. Because, folks, if you look at his stuff plus scores, his four-seam fastball was right around a league average pitch. His slider was an above average pitch. His sinker was above average pitch. His changeup was an average pitch. And his cutter was an above average pitch, of course, all relative to their pitch groups. And that's pretty good. When you have 5 pitches that can grade out as average or above average in terms of stuff plus, that's going to play. Can Will Warren get that to being, 5 pitches with average or above average stuff plus scores and then above average or average command? Because if he can do that, he's going to work at least as a reliever, and he could be a really damn good starter down the road. Baseball Savant has him as a .99 similarity score with Michael King, which means one would be like an identical one-of-one clone. 0.99 is about as close as you could possibly get. Those comparisons to Michael King are not, malarkey. They're not bullcrap. They're not just people saying they look the same, kind of like how people go Spencer Jones, Aaron Judge, and they don't actually look at what makes Spencer Jones and what made Aaron Judge Aaron Judge. Will Warren legitimately has really just scary similarities to Michael King in terms of, his breaking ball, fastballs, release points, arm angles, delivery, so on and so forth. So I think these two pitchers in Will Warren and Clayton Beeter can have a lot of success for the Yankees next year. In terms of Will Warren's projected results, according to Steamer, he's projected for a 3.67 ERA and a 23.4% strikeout rate. Again, I think everyone here would take that. But these two arms certainly have the upside to be really mainstays in the Yankee bullpen in 2025. And in the case of Will Warren and Clayton Beeter too, that 6th starter spot is going to be up for grabs if the Yankees can complete a trade for Marcus Stroman. I know JT Brubacher is here and he can also grab that 6th starter job, but guys always get hurt in spring training. So for Beeter and Warren, this is a pretty important camp because the both of them are now on the 40-man roster, are here with the major league team, and will have a shot to make the team with an impressive enough spring training. And of course, also enough injuries. So with that being said, we'd love to know what you guys think in the comment section below about either of these two pitchers. Do you believe they'll become real weapons for the Yankees in 2025? How confident are you in them becoming relievers or maybe even starters in the near future? And we just want to know what you guys think in the comment section below. We really appreciate you guys tuning in and checking out Fireside Yankees and spending your time with us. You guys can check us out again on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and of course this YouTube page. Links are all in the description. Handles are Fireside Yankees everywhere but Instagram, where it's at fireside.yankees. And you can check me out at Ryan Garcia ESM and check out some of my written content on empiresportsmedia.com, which is, of course, the parent company for Fireside Yankees. We've got Giants, we've got Knicks, Yankees, Mets, all of your favorite New York sports teams, and some other big market teams as well. Thank you again for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Let's go, Yankees.
Perfect.